What's going on, everybody? It's time for our brand new podcast, Strengthening Love and Sex with Dr. Stacy Spencer
Rhonda Spencer.
and we are so excited to be here with you on tonight. We've been looking forward to this night for a long time. A lot of you, Ron, people were asking, I enjoyed the conversation, but it's a little bit awkward being on social media platforms that are kind of like the living room where the whole family is in on discussion.
Yes.
So I think this is going to be a little bit better, don't you?
I agree because it's more intimate. You can ask your questions here in this safe space. We want you to know it's safe, and we're just going to have fun with it.
Amen. So listen, if you are not over the age of 18, this podcast is not for you. As a matter of fact, let me be more specific. If you're not seriously dating or married, then this podcast might not be for you because we're going to talk about mature content. We're going to be talking about sex, love, intimacy, all the things that relate to marriage. So if you are married, seriously dating, and you're over the age of 18, you're in the right place at the right time. And we're going to get right into it. So tonight we're going to be talking about one of my favorite books of the Bible, Song of Songs. The Song of Songs is a romantic, erotic literature, passion literature that's right in the Bible and is often neglected because Christians seem to think that God didn't want us to have sex. Some Christians do. But how do we get past that misnomer that God doesn't want us to enjoy sex?
Well, we have to change our mindset, knowing that yes, God created sex for us to reproduce, but also for us to enjoy our spouses.
Reproduction and recreation.
Yes, that's what you said, recreation and reproduction. So it's not just about, hey, we're going to have sex so I can get pregnant or to have a child. No, it's because you want to have a closer relationship, physical relationship with your spouse.
You know, Song of Songs is one of the most erotic passages in the Bible. And oftentimes it's skipped over because a lot of people have cognitive dissonance about, okay, I'm supposed to be chaste, I'm supposed to be holy, but they're talking about sex in the Bible.
Yes.
For example, she says there's the lover, the young woman, and then there's a young man. And oftentimes people believe that the young man is King Solomon and he's pursuing his fiance. But she says in the second chapter, I want to sit under the tree and taste my lover's fruit. And that's an intriguing scripture because the allegory, we miss what she's actually saying. She's saying, I want to sit under my lover and taste his fruit. Mm-hmm. She wants to taste him.
Yes.
I hope he ate some pineapples.
And use some soap and water, because what she is actually talking about is oral sex. So oral sex is not nasty. Now, of course, that is going to have to be something that you and your significant other discuss. Now, oral sex is not just one way. So it's not just when
love is a two-way street. Caught up in a lonely. Yes, it's a two-way street. The woman wants it and the man wants it.
Absolutely.
And we both need it. But even before we get into the juicy part of this text, there is something she says, the lover, the female lover says in chapter 2, verse 7. It says, promise me, O women of Jerusalem, by the gazelles and wild deer, not to awaken love until the time is right. Baby, what does that mean? What does it mean, don't awaken love until the time is right? How do we know when it's the right time to awaken love? And what does that mean for you?
Awaken love, when it's the right time, means that you are mature. In the human brain does not fully develop until age 26. And so at age 26, that's when all your reasoning, your deductive logic comes into play. So if you awaken love or have sex before you are mature enough to handle all of the things that come with being sexually active, meaning now you got a soul tie. Now you got to think about, okay, birth control for both you and your spouse or your significant other. So there are so many things that you have to think about, which a mature brain will think about once sexual intercourse comes into play in the relationship.
Yeah, you have to consider the cost.
Absolutely.
Is the juice worth the squeeze?
Hmm.
And a lot of young people in their 20s, I thought we were grown in our 20s.
Yes,
There's a statistic that says that 48% of those who marry before the age of 18 are likely to divorce within 10 years, compared to 25% of those who marry after the age of 25.
Hmm.
So it tells me that the older you are, in terms of giving your brain time to mature, that right side of the brain, or that prefrontal cortex, the executive making decision part of your brain, doesn't fully develop to around 26. So the whole thing of not awakening love says to me, can you handle the consequences of your decisions to pursue love when you're not mature yet? And a lot of people in their 20s, they're not ready yet. They awaken love, they have physical interaction, and yet their mind, their executive decision making function, has not reached the level of their hormones. The hormones are raging, but their mind is not at a place where it can deductively inspect the person that they're getting ready to be in a relationship with. Let me dig into that a little bit more. So when we're young and we're all in love, we look through rose-tainted lenses.
Right.
Everything, oh, I love him, I love her, she's the best thing, and we're going to be together forever. But have you investigated to see, is there any crazy people in his family? How is their credit? Do you match? Do your personalities mesh? Do you even know what their interests are? Have you become a student of that person, or are you just in love with being in love? What do you think?
I think at that point, you're just in love with being in love, because you may not have been around all of the family to determine, okay, these are some things that's going on in their family of origin that I'm willing to deal with. Or these are things that I don't want to deal with. Or even in your own origin of family, you're like, oh my gosh, I need to really have a better relationship with my parents or siblings, so that you are a 100% whole person before you get into a relationship. And while you were talking, I was thinking about the average 18, 19-year-old that's dating. They're dating, and then let's say that something happens and they break up. So then they're bitter, and that bitterness is carried sometimes into the next relationship. Sometimes hurt people will hurt other people. And as you mature, you may forget that, okay, I was hurt back when I was 18, but now I'm 27, but I'm still acting in that hurt manner. And then you may be hurting the other person.
And that's where dating comes in, the seriously dating piece. So if you're listening out there and you're in your 20s, we understand we were 21, right? And so we were dating in college, and we learned a lot about each other and ourselves through dating. And that's what dating is all about, learning about the other person, because everybody you date is not going to be your spouse.
Right.
You're discovering more about yourself and that person to see, is this a person I want to be for the rest of my life? But when you awaken love too soon, and you jump into bed too soon, it muddies up your deductive reasoning, and you can't even see the fact that I am connecting with a person that I am not equally yoked with. So,
Right.
okay, equally yoked, throughout a biblical word right there.
Right.
Do y'all match? Are you on the same page? Do you have the same life goals?
Interests.
Do you have the same interests? Do you have the same faith or belief? All those things have to come into play. And you and I were right on the edge of this statistic when we got married.
Right.
We were how old when we got married?
We were 23 and 24.
23 and 24. Didn't know a lot.
We thought we did.
We thought we did.
Thought we did.
But we got married, and we bumped along, and we learned more about each other year after year. And we made it. But we had to learn about what each other liked and didn't like. We had to learn how to please one another sexually. And what I thought I knew, I didn't. I had to unlearn some stuff, and I had to learn some new stuff. This podcast is for young couples that are seriously dating. Hopefully, you're over the age of 25 so that you can give your love a fighting chance, right? So, why would the young female lover implore the young women not to awaken love before it so desires? Rhonda, what do you think? Can you add a little bit more about why she implored the young women not to awaken love before it so desires?
One, because when you are not in a covenant relationship, you should be working toward. So there's two types. Let me back up. Either you're dating just to date, meaning you're just having fun, going out,
Linking
up, whatever your definition of that will be, or you're dating to get married, meaning that you're on a more serious trajectory, that you guys have kind of laid a little bit of a foundation, but you cannot awaken that love too soon, because if you do and it's not mature love, then it may not last. And I'm not saying that it will fail, but you will give it a better fighting chance, knowing that you're mature, that you're both mature, that you're both having those hard conversations on this is what I like, what I don't like, and having the flexibility to change, not to change the person totally, because you can only change yourself.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody once said that lust is the gorilla that bangs at the door of your heart. And when you're in your early 20s, those hormones are raging, right? You want to go out and explore sexually. But if your mind is not ready to embrace that kind of love, then it could go left real fast. So the beautiful thing about being in covenant or being in a marriage, and a covenant is simply a contract between two people. And when we think about marriage, it is a holy covenant that God created for a man and woman to be faithful to one another. And within that contract, there's so much freedom and fullness of eroticism, of passion. And the marriage bed is able to handle all those desires. I want to go to a scripture, one of my favorite scriptures in 1 Corinthians chapter 7. And listen to the Message version. It says, "Now getting down to the questions you ask in your letter to me. First, is it a good thing to have sexual relations?" This is the Apostle Paul in the New Testament. He's being asked this question by the people in the church in Corinth. And here's what Paul says. He says, "Certainly, but only within a certain context. It's good for a man to have a wife and for a woman to have a husband. Sexual desires are strong, but marriage is strong enough." Somebody type strong enough. Marriage is strong enough to contain them and provide for a balanced and fulfilling sexual life in a world of sexual disorder. The marriage bed must be a place of mutuality. The husband seeking to satisfy his wife. The wife
seeking to satisfy her husband.
Marriage is not a place to stand up for your rights. Marriage is a decision to serve the other. I like that. Marriage is a decision to serve the other. Whether in bed or out, abstaining from sex is permissible for a period of time if you both agree to it, and if it's for the purposes of prayer and fasting, but only for such times. Then come back together again. Satan has an ingenious way of tempting us when we least expect it. I'm not commanding these periods of abstinence, only providing my best counsel if you should choose them. Wow, what a power-packed piece of scripture from the Apostle Paul about sex. He says, sexual drives are strong, but marriage is strong enough to contain them and provide for a balanced and fulfilling sexual life in a world of disorder. Our desire is highest when we're in our 20s, when we're young.
Yes.
Can you remember that?
Oh, yes.
There's some things we did in our 20s that we can't do in our 50s because we'll hurt ourselves.
Right. This is true.
We had a wonderful time in our 20s.
Oh, well, we're having a wonderful time.
And we're having a wonderful time now. Yes. Yeah. But my point is that sexual desire is strongest when we're younger, right? And our testosterone levels as men is at the highest. It's like 1800. Now, when I hit middle age, when I hit 50, mine plummeted because of stress to 200. That was the lowest I've ever been. And it affected me. And what happens in men is that when you reach age 35, your testosterone level goes down 1% every year you grow older.
Every year. Wow.
And for women, y'all don't tail off as fast as we do, but you do around age 40 start to lose estrogen. And how does that affect you all?
Well, really depending. Now, I went through the change early.
Around 38?
No, actually around 35.
Mm.
So it wasn't because it was something that was hereditary. It was just common. My mom had also gone through the change early. But what can happen with us going through the change, we're having multiple things, hot flashes, your libido and sexual drive kind of plummets a bit. You may experience some vaginal dryness. You have more irritability. So those are things that you need to not keep inside, but seek your primary care, your gynecologist, not just your best girlfriend for advice, but you may need to get some medical attention regarding those things.
Looks like we have a question.
Okay.
From Andrea. She says, my husband is experiencing low testosterone and he is having some ED issues, but doesn't want to speak about it. What can we do? What would you say?
I would say that hopefully he has a primary care physician to, one, talk to your husband lovingly about it. Let him know that this is just part of life. There's nothing for him to be upset or ashamed about, because you don't want to say, oh, I can't do such and such, wagging your finger because you can't, whatever, but be loving towards your husband and understanding, show empathy that this is something that you can work through together. Now, don't go to the corner grocery store and try to get those, what are some
gas station pills?
Gas station pills.
Horny goat weed.
Yes, all that crazy extra stuff that you don't know what's in it. But make an appointment for his doctor and let his doctor check it out.
Love is the foundation for good sex.
Absolutely.
And you all have to be friends before you're lovers.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Because as you grow older together, your body is going to change. Mm-hmm. It's going to affect.
Yeah.
And you got to figure out new ways to approach having sex, approach making love. But if you have friendship as a foundation and empathy as a foundation, you won't be so judgmental and harsh when your wife or husband is not able to perform. Again, the marriage bed is able to handle your desires to have a fulfilling and mutual beneficial love life. God wants you to have amazing sex. And it's possible in your 20s, your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, your 60s, 70s, on and on till the break of dawn. But you got to have a strong foundation of love and empathy and communication so that when you hit those moments, those milestones where your body changes, you still are able to talk your way through it.
Absolutely.
The second thing, what's the second thing you want to tell them tonight?
Well, also that men need to make sure that you are satisfying the woman,
come on,
your wife. Now, there is a very small percentage of women who are orgasmic with penetration alone. And I just found out with some research that all those capabilities, the inner workings of our bodies, are formed when we are in the womb. So I'm trying to think of what that particular the centimeter between
if there's more than an inch between the woman's clitoris and the urinary tract, if it's more than an inch, chances are that woman is not going to be able to reach orgasm through penetration alone. As a matter of fact, between 70 and 90% of women are unable to achieve orgasm with penetration alone. That's something I had to learn. As a young man, I used to, unfortunately, I was misinformed by pornography when I was a teenager. My uncles gave me porn magazines and I was exposed to pornography too early, and that was my miseducation of sexuality. I had to relearn my wife's body when I got married and understand how to love on her her clitoris, to take my time to explore what brought her pleasure. And we discovered that it required oral stimulation around her clitoris, just like the majority of women. That's what there's a book we read not long ago called Give Her Hers First.
Yes.
And that's talking about how husbands should make sure that women are able to orgasm, because a lot of times what happens in the bedroom is that men are quick to orgasm.
Oh my gosh.
The average sexual time is around 5 to 7 minutes. And many women lay there frustrated in the bed staring at the ceiling because the man is climaxed and the woman's just left there longing for one.
And then on the other hand, not just the clitoral stimulation, for a lot of women, it starts in our mind because we will have this long list of to-dos for the next day. And so
I call them honeydews.
Well, the honeydews are the do's that I need you to do.
Yeah, and if I do the honeydews, then you do the do.
Sometimes I need you to do both. But we have to be fully relaxed. Most women have to be fully relaxed. Most women also need more than clitoral stimulation. So multiple touches, stimulating conversation, a great atmosphere, having a good foundation, sex but just being relaxed and being able to enjoy the moment. If you have small children, the children are already put to bed. If you have things you need to do for the next day, having those already pre-done. I'm giving a number of tips, but we need more than just direct clitoral stimulation.
What I heard my wife say, men, check this out.
Check it out.
If you want to get some, it starts in the kitchen.
Message.
You got to help get that list checked off. The things that she has to do. Like the other night, after my wife cooked dinner, I went in, I washed pans, I put the food up, and it was extra special that night.
Yes.
It was good. And we found out another thing. This is a plug for one of our church members who owns a CBD store called Be Free CBD. And so we got some gummies. I needed to go to sleep. My job is stressful, and that added to my testosterone level getting eaten up. And so I've now been able to sleep better through the aid of my CBD gummies.
Yes, CBD.
But what I've also discovered, check this out, is that when she takes her night gummies, I take my night gummies. Right before we fall asleep is the perfect window of opportunity to satisfy one another mutually. It prolongs the moment because her mind is free. She's relaxed. Yes. She's able to reach orgasm better because the CBD causes her to feel relaxed. Am I right?
You're exactly correct. And then with you, you're longer, you're more...
longer in what sense?
Longer in your foreplay. The foreplay is longer. So it's not like regiment where it's a time, like, oh my gosh, it's such and such time and I got to get up in the morning. But it's longer there. It's more intentional. The cues that are more on point. So there's a lot of benefits.
So men have to satisfy their wives.
Mm-hmm. And wives have to satisfy their husbands.
And so let me speak for the men. We so enjoy, maybe I hope I'm speaking for all men. We enjoy oral sex.
Okay.
I think it's so important. As a matter of fact, it's been scientifically proven that erections last longer from oral stimulation. It also has been proven that men who get oral sex weekly live longer lives. So, babe, if you want to save my life, prolong my life, I need weekly stimulation. Watch this. In chapter 2, verse 7, chapter 2, I think maybe it's verse 5. It says, like the finest apple tree in the orchard is my lover among other young men. I sit in his delightful shade and taste his delicious fruit. Rhonda, what is she talking about again?
She's talking about oral sex.
Oral sex. She wants to taste her lover. Yeah. And like my wife said earlier, if this is going to be a pleasant experience for both of you, men, you got to go take a shower before happy time. You got to go wash up between the folds, wash behind you, scrub, Get everything so that when she goes down, it's a pleasant experience and she's not smelling lunch meat and your sweat from the day.
As we like to say at night, we are washing the day off. So it is a great opportunity to connect with your spouse by showering together. So you're both showering together at night, so you washing the day off. And then if that means that you put on some little lounging clothes, if it's not time to go to bed, you lounge a little bit. Then by the time you guys are ready to go to bed, then it's on.
It's on like a pot of neck bones. Hey, we got another question. Listen, if you have any questions for us on this podcast, type them in the comments right there on the YouTube channel. You can type in the comments and we'll answer them. And so I see one question from Gerald. Gerald says, "Why do men always have to initiate sex?" What do you think Gerald means by that?
I think the perception is that men are always initiating sex because they're not giving the woman enough time to initiate sex because they seem like their light switch is always on go. So it doesn't take a whole lot for a man to be ready to go as far as having sex. But for women, it may take us a little longer in some cases. So I think it's because there's not a chance for the female in some cases to initiate because the man is initiating so often.
Yeah, men, we're hunters. We're hunters by nature, and we want to pursue our women. We don't like roadkill, where you're just laying there like Miss Seeley, like, come and do your business on me. We like it kicking. We like our prey live and kicking. We also like it when women pursue us sometimes. When you come out of the bathroom and you got your hair down, the bonnet is not on, the scarf is not on.
Okay, so let's say something. You say a lot about the bonnet and the scarf. Okay, ladies, this is a trick. Do not put your bonnet or scarf on until you are finished having sexy time with your husband.
Okay.
9 times out of 10, he's a little extra drowsy. So at that point, go ahead and put your scarf or your bonnet on.
we want women to initiate, right? It turns us on to feel like I'm still handsome. She still desires me. And you come and you get on top of me and you kiss me. That's everything for a man. And so we both want to feel mutually pursued, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think that's what Gerald means. Sharon has a question too.
Sharon asks, I feel like my husband doesn't see me anymore. He doesn't make any effort to pursue me. What can I do? So what do you think she needs to do for that?
I think that, I'm not saying that you're not Sharon, but I would say make yourself physically attractive. When you're coming out of the shower, let your husband ogle you. Take your time, drying off. Sometimes y'all wrap up and cover up too fast. Let him see you. Send him some texts, some sexy texts throughout the day, some pictures that he has to look at up under the boardroom table. And just continue to do those things that make him feel attractive, pursue him, give him compliments, put on your perfume, wear some negligee, or wear nothing at all. Wear one of his shirts, when he comes home, meet him at the garage door with nothing on but his necktie and your high heels.
I have another suggestion, even possibly that warrants having a conversation, because if you're feeling that and that hasn't been communicated, it could be an expectation that is not being met from your feeling. So I think you need to have that conversation, not in a negative coming at you type, but lovingly, like, hey babe, I've been noticing here lately that you're not so extra complimentary. You're not really hugging me a whole lot. So just see his headspace. It may be something going on, work, family. It could be a number of things, but I think it warrants having that conversation.
Listen, this is getting good, and we don't want to keep you all night long. But if you have some questions, please hit us up so we can answer your questions. And so we want to take a pause right here because there's so much that is being said. And here's a question from Terica, and then we're going to pause. It says, I'm angry with my husband, but he still wants sex. What should I do? What should happen when you're angry at your spouse, but they still have needs?
Well, that's a big one. Because we will say all the time to not go to bed angry. But we do realize that there are some situations that may need to be parking lot to the next day, where you can agree to disagree for the moment. But you still need to talk to one another, and it may not even be penetration that night after you guys talk. It may just be the holding of one another where you feel more, because it is human nature for you to have a disagreement from time to time, but it is not fair to either person to hold that as a weapon.
Don't weaponize your
Yes.
sex.
Either husband, male, female, do not weaponize sex, because that's just going to make the other person even more angry or feel even more alone, or feel, what's the word I'm looking for, not loved. So make sure that you talk about what needs to be talked about. If it's a certain time at night and it's going on to the next morning, then you're like, let's continue this conversation when we're both able to really give it our all to talk about.
What I love about God is that the way he designed the human anatomy is amazing. So the sex becomes a tool for reconciliation. When a man and a woman come together as one sexually, there is a bonding chemical that is released, the oxytocin. Dopamine is a pleasure chemical that's released in our mind, and sex is almost equivalent to the high that you get from using a drug like cocaine. So the best drug you can use is having sex with the one you love. And it connects us. It bonds us. The oxytocin is the chemical that a mother feels when she's nursing her baby. That same feeling she gets from nursing her baby is the same feeling she gets when she's making love and making a connection with her husband. And so those bonding moments bring us back together and cause us to heal faster when we have disagreements or when we become disconnected. It brings us back together. There's two more things we want to talk about tonight before we leave, and that's this. Marriage is a decision to serve the other, whether in bed or not. This is a big one. Marriage is a decision to serve the other, whether in bed or not. Can you jump into that a little bit? Tear that apart. What does that mean to you when Paul says that marriage is a decision to serve the other in bed or out of the bed?
When you said that, what immediately came to mind was the golden rule. I know it says others, but treat your spouse the way you want to be treated.
Yes.
So if that means, hey, I'm going to make sure that every night by a certain time, whatever you agree upon, whether finding first his love language. If it's affirmations, a cooked meal a couple times a week, planning date night, buying him something a little extra that he may want, or being, complimentary, hanging out with him. It's so many things you can do to serve your husband outside of the bedroom. Being respectful, not making a scene unnecessarily when there is a disagreement. There's so many things that could be done.
Yeah. I like Beyonce's song, Let Me Cater to You. I love catering to my wife. I like making her breakfast in bed, but until she told me she likes sleep more than breakfast. And so I stopped making breakfast. I found other ways to cater to her, going to make her some tea when she's trying to relax, rubbing her feet when we're watching TV. She loves that. And my hands get frozen, but I try to rub her feet for her, scratching her scalp with a comb. You like that?
I do.
Putting lotion on her back when she's getting dressed. She can't reach her back, so I put lotion on her. I cater to her in the bedroom. I make sure that I please her first. Try to massage her, rub on her.
Thank you.
And give her all the things that she wants. And then when I'm outside the house, I'll call and I'll say, can I pick up anything? Can I pick up your prescriptions? Anything you need from the store? So serving your spouse is not just in the bedroom, it's also outside the bedroom. Absolutely. And also what you do outside the bedroom makes the bedroom all the more special. Right?
Yes, because you don't want to walk into the house, whether you're male or female, walk in the house and at 9 o'clock, which is the magic hour, or 10 o'clock, you're thinking, oh, we're going to have sex. No, it starts all day from the time you wake up until the time you go to bed. Now, again, it doesn't always mean that it's going to be penetration, but that sex of connecting, whether that's physically being in each other's face, what your sleep positions are. So those conversations start early in the day so that you can end your night with that good nightcap.
Hey. The last thing we want to say is Paul ends this text by saying, do not deny each other sexual fulfillment except by mutual consent.
Right.
And the only time you should deny one another is when you're praying or fasting.
Mm.
And even with that, Paul says, do that for an agreed upon period of time, because when you go too long without sex in marriage, it gives the devil a foothold. So let me ask you this, babe. What are the dangers of having a sexless marriage?
Oh, the dangers are then someone else coming in and getting that attention and talking to you and gassing you up, and then you start shifting those feelings of, oh, this person really cares about me, and it becomes more than it should be. It's no longer innocent. And then also, if you are experiencing any medical issues, whether that's your time of the month, which is not a medical issue, but whether it's your time of your month, or the libido is not where it needs to, then that conversation needs to take place so that different things could help enhance during that time.
I hope that this first segment of Strengthening Love and Sex podcast has helped you and your spouse. Listen, if it's been a blessing, if it's helped you, would you do us a favor and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Dr. Stacy L. Spencer, our YouTube channel there. And you'll get our podcast every week on Monday nights at 7. On Thursday nights at 7, we release a new podcast every Thursday at 7. It'll be on all the podcast platforms. And we're just going to continue this discussion. And we're also going to be telling you about a free master's class that we have coming up on September the 15th, I think it is. It's that Thursday at 7 p.m. And we want you to be a part of that free we said free.
Yes.
Free master's class. And we'll be jumping into how do you build a marriage that has passion and fire? How do you get that fire back in your marriage to where you want to have sex with your spouse? You want to spend time with your spouse. Mm-hmm. It's possible to get that fire back in your marriage. How many of y'all want that? How many want? If you want fire back in your marriage, put some 3 little fire things in the comment section, and we're going to be teaching you in September on how to get that fire back, and we want to tell you on how we can walk with you closer and to help be your relationship coaches, your marriage coaches, your sex coaches, and get you to the marriage that you always wanted. Anything else you wanted to tell them before we leave?
No, there isn't anything. I think you covered from our YouTube, the podcast, the website.
What is our website?
Our website is drstacyLspencer.com.
Is it? Or is it www.theunashamedmarriage.com?
Well, that's another website.
we got 2 websites. We got drstacyLspencer.com And we also have our marriage website, which is www.theunashamedmarriage.com. And so you go there, you find out everything you need to know about marriage, and we want to connect with you. And there's even a number you can text to get weekly devotionals and texts about what we got coming up. And so we want you to stay in the loop. Listen, again, share this podcast with your friends. We're glad it's our first night. Woo! And I want you to go tell all your married friends and all your seriously dating friends that there is a podcast you got to hear. It's called Strengthening Love and Sex. We'll see you next week.
See you next week.